I'm 93 years old, and the worst day of my life was not the day my husband died. It was the day he looked at me and asked who I was. My name is Eleanor Whitmore, and I stood in my own kitchen while the man I had loved for 54 years searched my face like I was a stranger who had wandered in from the street. That is the day I understood something I had spent my whole life ignoring. Memory is not guaranteed. Love is not enough to hold it in place. And if it could happen to him, it could happen to me. When you reach 93, you do not wake up thinking about ambition or plans. You wake up counting what is still intact: your breath, your balance, your name, the names of your children. I do that every morning now. Before I even sit up in bed, I whisper them softly: Daniel, Ruth, Michael. I say my husband's name too, Thomas. I say it because I still can. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you this because I am running out of years to say what I should have understood decades ago. Thomas and I married young. I was 21. He was 23. We did not have much money, but we had energy. He worked at a rail yard. I worked part-time at a grocery store until the children came along. Life was busy in the way young life always is. Bills, laundry, supper on the stove, shoes by the door. We believed survival was success. In those years, I did not think about my brain. No one talked about it. We talked about cholesterol when someone had a heart attack. We talked about blood pressure when a neighbor fainted. But the mind, that was something you assumed would carry you until the end. I read a lot as a girl. I loved books. I loved the quiet feeling of turning pages. But when children came, books became a luxury. I told myself I would return to them later. Later is a word that disguises delay as patience. Thomas liked conversation. In the evenings, he would sit at the kitchen table and tell me stories from the rail yard. I would listen while folding clothes. Then television became part of our routine. It was easier than talking, easier than thinking. After long days, we both chose what required less of us. It did not feel like neglect. It felt like rest. Weekends were for catching up on chores. Sundays were church and then exhaustion. We moved through years this way: productive, responsible, tired. If you had asked me at 45 whether I was doing enough, I would have said yes. I kept the house clean. I raised kind children. I showed up to school events when I could. I cooked. I managed the bills. I believed that was what mattered. The small erosion was invisible. I stopped challenging my mind. I stopped learning new things. I repeated the same routines, same recipes, same television programs, same conversations about the weather. Thomas remained curious longer than I did. He read the newspaper carefully. He clipped articles. He tried to explain political changes to me. Sometimes I waved him off because I was tired. Tell me later, I would say. Later did not come. The first time Thomas forgot something important, he laughed it off. He misplaced his keys. Then he forgot the name of a neighbor we had known for 20 years. We joked about getting older. We told ourselves this was normal. The day he forgot the route home from the hardware store, something inside me shifted. He called me from a gas station, embarrassed. I could hear it in his voice. I just can't picture the turn, he said. I drove to get him. He looked smaller in the passenger seat that day. 2 years later, we sat in a doctor's office and heard the word Alzheimer's spoken softly. Thomas stared at his hands. I stared at the diploma on the wall behind the doctor's head. I do not remember most of what the doctor said. I remember the feeling of the room shrinking. Alzheimer's does not arrive loudly. It settles in quietly and begins removing things piece by piece. Thomas forgot birthdays. Then he forgot stories we had told for decades. Then one afternoon, standing in our kitchen, he looked at me and said, "Ma'am, can I help you?" Ma'am. I smiled because I did not know what else to do. Later, in the bathroom with the door locked, I pressed my hands against the sink and tried to steady myself. I had not prepared for that kind of disappearance. There is no single dramatic moment where you realize everything is changing. It is a series of small moments. The missed word, the repeated question, the confusion over a simple task. I began to watch him carefully. I began to watch myself too. I was 85 when his decline became undeniable. I remember waking one morning and forgetting the dream I had just had. That frightened me more than I can explain. Not because dreams matter so much, but because I suddenly saw a path. I saw where this could lead. After Thomas passed at 89, the house felt too large. Silence filled it. I could have let myself drift. I could have stayed in bed longer each day. I could have turned the television on and let it speak for me. Instead, I made one decision, not a grand decision, a daily one. I decided I would not let my mind sit unused. The first thing I did was walk every morning, slowly at first, around the block. No headphones, no phone, just noticing the sky, the air, the way sunlight touched the pavement. It felt uncomfortable in the beginning because it required presence. I had spent years avoiding that kind of presence, but I kept walking. Then I returned to reading 10 pages a day. That was all. Some days I had to reread paragraphs because my focus drifted. I did not shame myself. I just continued. I began writing in a small notebook each afternoon. Not poetry, not anything impressive, just memory, what I ate, who I spoke to, a story from when the children were young. Writing forced my mind to retrieve and organize. I started calling someone every day, a friend, one of my children, an old neighbor. Conversation is exercise. It requires listening. It requires recall. It requires response. That became my daily act, showing up fully to something, not perfectly, not heroically, just deliberately. I changed the way I ate. Less sugar, more vegetables, simpler meals, not because a magazine told me to, because I had watched decline. I had watched confusion settle into Thomas's eyes. If there was even a small chance that caring for my body could support my mind, I wanted to try. I began learning small new things. A few words in Italian, the names of birds in our neighborhood, a short poem memorized line by line. At 93, memorizing a poem is not easy. It takes repetition. It takes patience. It takes humility. Fear still visits me when I misplace my glasses or search for a word. My heart beats faster. I see Thomas standing in the kitchen, calling me ma'am. I pause. I breathe. I retrace my steps calmly. Panic clouds the mind more than aging does. There are things I cannot repair. I cannot go back to my 40s and choose conversation over television. I cannot give Thomas the deeper attention he deserved when he was still fully himself. I cannot reclaim the evenings we surrendered to routine. Time does not negotiate. It does not return what it takes. But I can tend to what remains. Some mornings I test myself gently. I recite my children's birthdays. I describe our first apartment in detail. The cracked tile in the bathroom. The way Thomas laughed when the sink leaked and sprayed water across the floor. These are not just memories, they are anchors. I do not believe I have outsmarted anything. I am 93. I understand the fragility of this stage of life. I understand that tomorrow I may wake up and feel different. But I also understand something I wish I had known earlier. The mind is shaped by daily living, not by grand gestures, by repetition, by attention, by engagement. If you are younger than I am, do not assume you have endless time to nourish your mind. Do not assume that success or responsibility automatically protects you. If you are my age, do not assume it is too late. I am not heroic. I am simply unwilling to drift. When I walk in the mornings now, I greet the same neighbor by name. I notice the same tree changing with the seasons. I return home and read 10 pages. I write a few lines. I call someone. I cook a simple meal. It is not dramatic. It is not impressive, but it is deliberate. Thomas is gone. Many of my friends are gone. I attend more funerals than celebrations. That is the rhythm of 93. What remains is today. If this meant something to you, if you have seen someone you love fade slowly, then you understand why I speak this way. Not loudly, not urgently, just honestly. Tomorrow morning, if I wake up, I will lace my shoes and walk again. I will greet the neighbor. I will read. I will write. And if one day I forget why I am walking, I hope someone will guide me home gently. For now, I still know the way. I am Eleanor Whitmore. I am 93 years old. My mind is not as sharp as it once was, but it is still here with me tonight. And until it slips beyond my reach, I will meet each day with attention. That is the only promise I can make.